Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight into it. So today we're going to go over Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6, well, verses 6 through 7. And I want to answer a question. Is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6 and 7, is it referring to Yahushua, the Hamashiach, or who the world calls today Jesus Christ? Or is it referring to King David, former king of Israel, one of the great men of Israel? Which one is it referring to? Now, we have plenty of brothers that call themselves, quote unquote, Old Testament only brothers, that they claim that this is referring to David. All right, this is referring to King David. But as we're going to see, this is definitely not. Now, I already did a lesson, a two-part lesson is Christ in the Old Testament, I believe it was titled, where we already covered this briefly, but as I'm reflecting here on the Sabbath, I just wanted to go over it quickly. I just pulled up these verses and I wanted to dive back in this particular, these particular verses just here briefly. So, let's get it. So this is Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So, for one thing here, when was King David given all these titles, man? Wonderful, Counselor, now the Mighty God. Now, that's a little deep for King David. All right, that's a little deep. The Everlasting Father. I don't remember King David being, being given. I don't remember King David given all of these, illustrious titles here. I just don't remember that reading that in the scriptures. The Prince of Peace. All right. So, and by the way, where it says the Everlasting Father, now one thing that the so-called Christians do, they use this verse to substantiate their idea that Yahushua or the Son is the Father, but he is not. That's just one way of saying he's a father to us all, but not in the sense of he's literally the Most High, like you have in Isaiah chapter 22 in verse, I want to say, verse 21 here, and I will clothe him with thy robe and strengthen him with thy girdle, and I will commit thy government into his hand, and he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. So where it says father, is this saying that Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, is the Most High? Is he the everlasting father? No, he's a father, meaning the leader of Israel. Just in that context, that's it. Just wanted to touch on that quickly, but let's get verse 7. Of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. So this is where they get the part that it's King David from, where it says here upon the throne of David. So when it says the throne of David, it's not referring to King David literally from a standpoint of this is going to be his throne. And we're going to get that because it's very clear that the scriptures use David for the house of David interchangeably, meaning Yahushua or the Christ, the Messiah, like Daniel chapter 9 calls him, the Messiah. He is from the seed of David. He is from the throne of David, the house of David. That's all that really means. I wanted to go to this before we go into the main point. Let's get Psalms chapter 40. And then we're going to start at verse 6. Sacrifice and offering thou didst not desire. Mine ears hast thou opened. Burnt offering and sin offering hast thou not required. Verse 7. Then said I, lo, I come. In the volume of the book, it is written of me. So this is a Psalm of David. So is this saying that the volume of the book, if you're an Old Testament only brother or sister, then you would say the volume of the book is the quote unquote Old Testament. Is the Old Testament written of King David only? Is he in the volume of the book? Nah, I think not. Verse 8, I delight to do thy will, O my power. Yea, thy law is within my heart. So if this is true, if this is referring to King David too, then that means that when we read the different prophecies, they're all referring to King David. They're referring to the same person, because it says here that King David, according to those that believe that, comes in the volume of the book, because there is no Messiah according to what many brothers and sisters believe, or some of them believe there is a Messiah. He just hasn't came back yet. Really, if you were to go that route, that's really all you could say. It's really hard to ignore the many different verses that are even in the quote unquote Old Testament that, literally tells you and very plainly tells you that there is a Messiah. There is someone that's going to be upon the throne, that's going to be ruling in the kingdom. That's very clear in the scriptures. So you can't really go there to say there's no Messiah, but some people still do it, which is sad. But hey, we know that's the thing. But either way, my point here for bringing up Psalms chapter 40 and 7 is that if this is concerning King David, then he comes in the volume of the book. So it should be consistent. If it's referring to King David in one verse, as in being who's going to take over the kingdom, once Yahushua returns, or if you believe when King David is resurrected and he returns, then he's going to be king of Israel. So all the verses should be concerning him, either King David, or if you like me, you believe in the Hamashiach, the anointed one, Yahushua, the righteous. All right, then it should all be concerning him. But either way, let's get it. Ezekiel chapter 34 and verse 23. And I will set up one shepherd over them. You see, one shepherd. The volume of the book is concerning just this one shepherd. All right. And he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. Now it says my servant David. So, it's very reasonable for one to look at this without the proper context and understanding and say, okay, this got to be referring to David. It literally says, even my servant David. So that's reasonable to believe that. Let's get verse 24. And I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David a prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken it. Okay, so it says here, well, let's get verse 25 real quick. And I will make with them a covenant of peace, and will cause the evil beasts to cease out of the land. That's referring to right now, the evil beasts, the other nations, to cease up out of our land. And they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the woods. All right, in that second wilderness, or that second Exodus back into the land. But either way, that's actually from the point. But to go back here in verses 23 and verse 24, now it says one shepherd, all right, and my servant David. So again, and it calls this servant a prince. So it's reasonable for someone to read this and say, okay, well, this is referring to King David, right? Well, let's continue. Let's see if that's true. Let's get Hosea chapter 3 and verse 4. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, and without teraphim. Verse 5. Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their power, and David their king, and shall fear the Most High, his goodness in the latter days. So again, we see in that it says David their king. So one can make that argument, right? And we read in Isaiah chapter 9 that it says upon the throne of David, so, one could come to that conclusion. All right. Without the proper context and understanding of the scriptures. Why we can't just pull one scripture and just run with it. Okay. And a lot of times in scripture, and that's more going into when we bring it all home, but a lot of times in scripture, you have something that's translated here in the English, or even if it's written that same way in the Hebrew, Aramaic, or, Koine Greek, either way, it could be written one way, but it doesn't mean you're supposed to take whatever it says literally, once you have the understanding. If that's the case, well, Old Testament only brothers and sisters wouldn't adhere to this, but if you take John chapter 3, verse 16, if you take the word world used in that verse, you take that literal, then you're going to think that world means, every single inhabitant on planet Earth, including the righteous and the wicked. And we know that's not the case. But anyway, let's get it. Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 24 and 25. And David, my servant, shall be king over them again. And they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant. Now, this is one thing here. So it says, and they shall dwell in the land. This is referring to Israel dwelling in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant. Now, if we take that literal, this means that the land is just given just unto Jacob. That's it. Obviously, when it says unto Jacob, it's referring to all of Israel. It wasn't even first given to Jacob. Really, the promise was into Abraham, his grandfather, and then Isaac, his father, and then Jacob. Right? So, you could even go further back, but just, going down to the promise, it wasn't to just Jacob, but it says here, given unto Jacob, my servant. So does that mean it's only for Jacob? Israel, he as in the man Israel, Jacob, he's going to be the only one dwelling in the land. Of course, that's silly. I know, but I'm just saying, just bringing up the point of we can't read this literal, just like we can't read where it says David, my servant, shall be king over them to be literal, as in the man David. That's what it's referring to. Every time it's not going to be literal. Okay. The scriptures aren't, they're not going to be literal. All right. Wherein, verse 25 again, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Okay, so it is looking pretty strong for their case so far. It keeps saying, the scriptures keep reiterating that it's going to be the Most High servant David that shall be the prince, the everlasting father, the counselor, the mighty God, so on and so forth. So let's get more though. Let's see. Now let's get the book of Zechariah chapter 12 and verse 8. In that day shall the Most High defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. In the house of David shall be as the Most High, as the angel of the Lord before them. Okay. And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. Verse 10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. So when was David pierced? Remember, the volume of the book is written about either the Messiah that we believe in or of King David. Because it says here in Psalm chapter 40 and verse 7 that then said I, lo, I come, in the volume of the book it is written of me. So this should be the same prophecy right here, should be referring to the same individual. And that's the thing. Like when you understand the scriptures, they all line up, especially with the future prophecies. Like most of the future prophecies are all referring to the same, handful of events, just, written in different perspectives from the different prophets of the Lord, all saying, all talking about the same events in a different way. Okay. Like the day of the Lord, the second Exodus is in many places in the scriptures. It's just broken down differently. Okay. And that's how Yahushua is, or the Hamashiach. All right. The Messiah, he's being written about all over. And in every book in the scriptures, it's just broken down differently, depending on the prophet or, so on and so forth. So that's what it means there in Psalms chapter 40 and verse 7. But either way, when was David pierced? And upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Who is this? Who was pierced? Understand? Who are the children of Israel going to be mourning for King David as one mourning for his only son? So now let's kind of segue into who this has to be referring to then. It's very simple. We already pretty much know. All right. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 23 and verse 5. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. So, behold, the days come. Verse 5 again, Jeremiah chapter 23. That I will raise unto David a righteous branch, the branch of David, a righteous branch of David from the house of David, not David himself, not the man David, but from his loins, as we're about to read here. Okay. So that is the Savior. Verse 6, in his days Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. That's how we know that the people that are in Israel now are not the children of Israel, because they're not dwelling safely. Okay. You got all these wars going on. Every time you look up, they're in a different war. Now, them and the Palestinians getting into it again, and righteously so, because, they did come over there and, disbar these people out of their lands. Well, when I say out of their lands, brothers know what I mean. Not as in which is, from a biblical and historical standpoint, but they were there before them, the quote unquote Israelis. Okay. And they came there in 1947, 1948. That's when the state of Israel was created, pretty much after World War II. So, who's going to be happy about that? They split the land up. These people want they land back. So, anyways, in Israel shall dwell safely. They're not, unless they don't fit the prophecies of the scriptures. And it says, and this is his name, whereby he shall be called the Lord our righteousness. You see, it's referring to the same person over and over and over and over again. Not King David, the righteous branch of King David. Okay, so how that I will raise unto David a righteous branch. Now, how could that be referring to David? You gonna raise David into David? This king is from the righteous branch of King David, not King David himself. Okay, let's get Psalm chapter 132 and verse 9. Let thy priests be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy. Verse 10. For thy servant David's sake, turn not away the face of thine anointed. Verse 11. The Most High hath sworn in truth unto David. He's sworn into truth unto David. Okay. The prophecies that we have, it came from what the Lord had sworn unto David. All right. He will not turn from it. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. Do I need to say it again? I will. Of the fruit of David's body, meaning his seed line, his children, his child that comes from his loins. Okay. His son. Now, of course, when I say son, not from the first generation, but from his same lineage, from the same tribe. Okay. That's going to be the king that's going to be upon the throne. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. That's it. So when it says David in Isaiah chapter 9, okay, upon the throne of David, back in Ezekiel chapter 34, in verses 23 and 24, when it says that in Hosea chapter 3 and verse 5, Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 24 and 25, it's all referring to Yahushua, that king that comes from the fruit of David's body. All right. It's really that simple. Okay. Now, 2 Samuel chapter 7, and I believe, is it 2 Chronicles chapter or 1 Chronicles chapter 17? I want to say it's the same prophecy. Okay. Let me see, make sure that's right. I'm going to tell y'all wrong. Yeah, so I already got it on here. I bet that's it. So 1 Chronicles chapter 17, and then you have 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 12. It gives you the answer to this. Okay, why it says David. Remember, and well, understand this. In the scriptures, everything was not revealed unto us from the days of Moses. Okay. We had some prophecies that were given to us and some that were hidden away. And then as time goes by, more and more of these prophecies are being revealed into the children of Israel. That's why so many of our people are waking up. Okay. One thing that I'm seeing that's kind of trending right now, and this is not, something that's all the way there, but I'm seeing more and more brothers and sisters denouncing these pagan demonic fraternities and sororities. That's becoming a thing right now. A lot of our people are waking up. A lot of people are understanding that this world and this society is wicked. All right. Anyways, 2 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 12. And when thy days be fulfilled, and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. Hold on. Now, this is Nathan, the prophet. All right, he's speaking for the Most High. The Most High is communicating with King David through the prophet Nathan. So what's being said here is that after thou shalt sleep, as in King David, after his days be fulfilled, and he shall sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, thy seed, his seed. Okay, his child from his lineage, from the tribe of Judah, his seed, his son, man. That comes from his sperm is very simple. It's not deep, y'all. It's not really complicated, I should say. Which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. Remember, lo, I come in the volume of the book, it is written of me. In the volume of the book is written of the same Savior, the same Hamashiach or Messiah, the same individual. Okay, it's not referring to, like y'all be saying, in Deuteronomy chapter 18, the prophet likened to Moses, that's Joshua. Then you go to Isaiah chapter 53. Oh, that's referring to Israel. And you go here, you got all these different men or whatever the case. That ain't Hamashiach. That ain't no Christ. That's this. It's because you don't understand all these scriptures are referring to the same Messiah, the same person. Okay. And I'm saying person, he's not meant to be called a person, but in itself, but you get the point. All right. Just for y'all don't understand or don't believe, the same person. That's it. All right. The volume of the book, it is written of him. King David was writing prophetically here. All right. He was not talking about himself. He was talking about the book is written of me. He's talking about himself. No, that's silly. Okay. That's why you have so many of the prophecies. I'm going to put them up on the screen. I believe Psalm chapter 8, there's like 3 or 4 different Psalms that there's no way it could have been referring to King David. All right. But it says, will shall proceed out of thy bowels, out of King David's bowels, after he's already asleep, after he, his days have already been fulfilled. So out of David's, out of his bowels, his seed line, out of his sperm, remember, sperm or seed is sperm. So out of his sperm, out of his seed line, out of his bowels, his child comes him, and then he going to be king from himself. Don't really make any sense. Verse 13, he shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Now, at this time that this was written, Israel thought that this was referring to one of David's sons, like King Solomon. King Solomon could not fit this prophecy whatsoever, because is his house still forever? Did he establish the throne forever? Absolutely not. So this is referring to a future prophecy. It's really double because it was fulfilled in a sense at that time, but it has not been fully fulfilled. And I brought up Isaiah chapter 53 before because I know this is you niggas' worst nightmare. I understand it. It's really hard to get around this when you read this chapter and really break it down. It's really because what I mostly hear, brothers tell me if these Negroes are saying something else, but what I mostly hear is that they say Isaiah chapter 53 is referring to Israel. I don't know if they talking about the nation or the man. Either one don't make sense. If it's referring to the man, when was Israel the man despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows? When was the nation of Israel as a whole despised and rejected of men? That doesn't really make sense. A man of sorrows, and it's referring to everyone, So Isaiah chapter 53, all of these verses that we went over, all referring to Yahushua, the same person, the volume of the book. Okay. And you see, we didn't get any quote unquote Old Testament scriptures, and we could get a lot more because, again, I went over this in part 1 and part 2 of Is Christ in the Old Testament? We got more scriptures there. But as you see, it's all referring to the same person. Okay. Yahushua HaMashiach. All right, Christ. You niggas are gonna hey man, you Negroes y'all gonna have to accept that, man. But I just wanted to hop in real quick and cover this, but that's pretty much it. Lord willing, it was edifying. Peaceful Sabbath, Shabbat Shalom to the believers, and I bid everyone a mighty shalom to the next time.